We all have to find really good ways to take care of ourselves, and especially in our mental health. I'm teaming up today with a friend for mental health self-care strategies. Scott Wilhite, again at Live on Purpose TV. He is the author of the 7 Core Skills of Everyday Happiness. We've got another video where we talked about all 7.
Yeah, check it out.
And you want to check that out. We're focusing on one of those today, which has to do with mental health, self-care strategies. Now, Scott, you're not a licensed mental health professional.
No, just mental.
But I am.
Yeah.
So we can talk about this, right? These are skills, daily practices that can be developed. In fact, in the other video when we talked about the 7 core skills, just remember, folks, that happiness is a choice. Okay, we have to say that and put it out there, and that's going to annoy and irritate some folks. And then we will qualify it by saying it is also a skill set, a set of skills that you can practice and develop. And Scott, you've come up with some ways to first assist yourself to do this. But what I love about you, Scott, there's a lot of things, obviously, but one of the things I love about your work and what you're doing is that you've taken these things that you've experienced yourself. You have captured it in a way that you can create value for other people. And so you're here today to share some of the strategies that you've learned for mental health self-care. I'm excited to hear what you have to share.
Oh, thanks. Well, first of all, let me just tell you, if you are in a place right now where it feels dark, where you're discouraged, where you're distraught, where you're having more trouble than you really feel you need to have, first of all, I want to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you feel that way. I'm sorry that you're there. And I also want to tell you that I was there too. And I want to tell you a story, and maybe that'll kind of help you reframe where you're at right now and where you can take some self-care strategies.
Yeah.
Again, you don't want to, if you're talking to a doctor already, or if you need to talk to a doctor, absolutely go talk to one. Get the medication you need. We're not saying stay away from any of that. But there are some self-care things you could do that are rather amazing. Now, let me tell you a story that happened years ago. And it's a time when I just about died. I was in the ocean. In fact, I remember, I gave up. I couldn't believe how fast I could give up hope. And I knew I was going to die, and my sister-in-law was going to die, and my daughter was going to die. And I felt so horrible as to what the 4th of July would forever mean to my family. You know, we were there on this family vacation. We'd come up to Oregon, Lincoln City, and went to the beach with it was my family and my brother-in-law's family, and the kids wanted to play in the water. And they'd run out and they'd kind of chase the waves, and I didn't want to do that because it was cold, even at the 4th of July. But I remember kind of paying attention to the kids, and every once in a while I'd look up, and then I'd do some other things, and then I looked up, and 2 of the kids were getting sucked out. And they had been caught in a rip current. Okay, I didn't know anything about that, and I threw all of my scout training away. And I just threw all my stuff down and ran and jumped in the water and swam out to grab whoever I could first. And I grabbed my cousin and was able to push her in. And it took everything I could because that current was so strong. Powerful. It was throwing us out. And we were getting churned around in the waves, and we were drinking water, and it was horrible. But I finally got her pushed in enough that she could walk and she could crawl up to the rest of the beach. Well, I turn around to get my daughter, and there's my sister-in-law, and she's really struggling, and she's between my daughter and me. And so I thought, okay, well, I'm going to go help her, and then I can get to my daughter, and I got to do this fast because I don't know how long she can take it. Just about did me in. I get to my sister-in-law, and we are just getting churned around. And we get hit by a wave, and it spins us around. We can't tell which way's up. And then finally we can, and then we get hit by the next wave. And it's like that, just pounding over and over again. And I'm just thrown, and I don't know what to do, and I'm taking in so much water. And that's when I realized I don't have any more hope. We are going to die. And I was sure of it. And it was just this horrible feeling about what that was going to do to me and my family. And then the most amazing thing happened. I looked up and I saw my daughter standing down south of us down the beach. Not on the beach, but out in the water. She'd found this sandbar, and she's motioning to us to come to her. And so I grabbed my sister-in-law, who I'd been trying to push in, and I pushed her south, down the shore. And it
not
wasn't
toward the beach.
Not towards the beach,
Yeah.
but down. And it didn't take us too long, and suddenly we hit a sandbar, and we were able to crawl up, and we were able to get out.
Oh, wow.
Well, what I didn't know is
Wow.
what rip currents do. Rip currents, they come in and they shoot straight out, and they can go faster than an Olympic swimmer, and they are powerful. I found out how powerful they are.
Yeah.
And what happens is people do exactly what I did, and they fight against it, and they go the same way over and over and over again. And it takes all of their strength, and they drown. And the way you get out of it is to swim south, to swim, what do you call it, perpendicular, whatever. Well, what my daughter had done is she had gotten turned around, and so she did something crazy, and she relaxed, and she went to the backstroke, because it was like the only thing that she knows.
That's all she had left.
Yeah. How do you do the backstroke in the middle of these churning waves? I mean, it was just this crazy thing. But she did it. She went south, and suddenly she was out of the pull of this. Well, the reason I bring that up is that's what this can do for you, because you're in the churn right now, and the more you come in straight into shore, the more you fight this, the more you put all of your energy into fighting, the less energy you're going to have, and the more it's going to zap you.
Yeah.
But there are things you can do that will bring peace, that will help you bring focus, that will help you be deliberate and intentional, and that's what I'm excited to share today.
Yeah. And it's a practice, a daily intentional practice that helps you to get your footing again. So, and you've developed some tools for that too. What do you have to show us here today?
Okay, well, what I have to show, this is a prototype. So if you go to my website, it probably won't look, I'm sure it won't look like this or whatever.
In development here.
It's in development, but I've been working on it. I've got a bunch of people that are trying it too. And you also don't even need this. I'll tell you some of the stuff that's in there, and you can start putting these things into practice.
These are the strategies or the skills that you're applying. You've got a tool to apply that, but they don't necessarily need the tool in order to practice the skills.
Just grab a notebook or whatever you want. But there are certain things that you can do. So I'll just kind of open up to a daily thing. Like a morning routine.
So it's kind of like a planner.
It is a planner. It's a day of planner. You know how when you take your kids to Little League and the coaches say, be there an hour early. You know, I mean, they've been practicing all week, but there is value in coming early and showing up and getting game ready. Well, how often do we get game ready for our own lives, you know? But if we can get game ready each morning.
For your day.
Anyway, it just makes a huge difference. So kind of the first thing is that you set your intention for the day. You figure out how is it that I want to feel today? What's the happy result that happens at the end? And you set that at the beginning, and that helps you focus on what your true goal is. You know, a lot of people say, I want to earn $1 million. Well, what's the real reason they want to earn $1 million? So they can feel better about themselves, so they can feel satisfied, safe, you know, whatever the feeling is.
They're going for the feeling.
Go for the feeling first. Set that as your intention, and then you can work the rest of the day.
So you could actually have an intention of feeling joyful or grateful or happy.
Any of that stuff.
Who knew?
So anyway, so that's the first one. I have another section over here. It's your power. This is power prayer. I had no idea you could get daily answers to prayer. That's actually a new addition. I've only been doing that for the last 3 months. Holy cow, it's life-changing. I was a prayerful person before, and I was super grateful that I would get an answer or two a year. I mean, it was pretty cool. I knew I was in the right direction if I got an answer or two a year, and now I'm getting them all the time. But there's a simple process for doing that, and it is to write down what is the single most important question I most need answered by my higher power today. And then you have his answer, and then what you're going to do from it. And actually, in another video, I'm sure we could share with you how you do that.
And really, you're paying more attention. You're tuning into and becoming intentional about it.
Yeah, very intentional.
Nice.
There's a section down here, list 3 things going right in your life right now. Helps you focus. This is a lot of positive psychology here. It helps you focus on what's going right. When you start to focus on what's going right, holy cow, you start to recognize that there is a lot more going right in your life than you really pay attention to. We normally focus on the negative, but when we see those little nuggets,
it's natural, psychologically, it's natural for our mind to attune to pain. You're going to pay attention to that. It's going to get your attention.
Yeah.
And so you're saying steer this intentionally in a less painful direction and identify what's working well. The other thing that this triggered for me, Scott, is that creates a win streak.
Yeah.
Because you've got your wins for today and then tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You got your wins for tomorrow and then the next day. So you get on this win streak. That's kind of a fun feeling.
Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
You get momentum. Now, one of my favorite parts is right down here. There's just grab a notebook. Do this every day and it'll really change you. But I have written my top 3 life priorities. And then next to it, I have what will I do today to prove that they are priorities. Now,
oh, that's a good question.
Isn't that fun?
Yeah.
So now if anybody asked me what my top priority was, I would always say my family. But I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a busy guy. And so I'd get up like in the 4s in the morning and I'd work and work and work and I got to make this business successful.
Yeah.
And I'd work through lunch and I'd work through the afternoon. And then my wife would call me for dinner and I'd bring the phone out and I'd have it sitting on the table in front of me. And if anybody texts or calls, I'm off taking care of business.
Yep.
For my family, right? For them.
Oh, we say that, yeah.
Yeah, but my family knew they weren't my top priority. Inside, I knew they weren't my top priority. I would say it, but I didn't practice it. I didn't truly believe it.
There wasn't a proof.
Yeah, and so when I started doing this is the thing that probably has changed me the most, is when I would write down what my top priorities are, and then I would say what I'm going to do today to prove that they're top priorities. Suddenly I have this harmony because I am making progress. And Harvard did a study, and you can Google this too. It's called the progress principle. But they did a 15-year study, and they found that the happiest, most successful people were people who made daily progress in meaningful work. Well, what's meaningful? Yeah. It just has to be meaningful to you. And so as you focus on what is really most important to you, and so what I would do is I would write down my top 3 life priorities, what I'm going to do to prove that they're priorities, and then I would add them into my calendar or into my to-do list, and suddenly my day is built around what really matters to me rather than the things that somebody else says I need to do or that, just kind of come up, or the fires that you're putting out. And so just simple things like that can help you be very intentional.
Yes.
Very deliberate, very purposeful. You find out, you start working from your core why, what you're really, really about, what really motivates you. And when you feel you're making progress, suddenly you're not tossed around in the sea anymore. You're no longer fighting, trying to go straight in. You're calm and peaceful, and you just get your life back. Does that make sense?
You're living on purpose.
Yeah.
If you liked this video, I think you'll probably also like Scott's books and other resources. You can connect to that in the description below. We also did another video together about how to be happier and less stressed. Make sure you catch that episode as well.